Have you ever heard of Google Street View? It's that mapping service that actually shows you a photo of the house or neighborhood you want to visit. Just punch in the address, and there it is. Well, it turns out some of Google's streetcars accidentally collected data, personal data about people, from Wi-Fi networks that were open when they were getting stuff for Google Street View. Oopsies, says Google. We didn't mean to. Joining us from Chicago to talk more about this is investigative journalist Wayne Madsen. Hey, Wayne, several countries in Europe, we're talking Germany, Spain, Italy, France, and the Czech Republic, all launching investigations. They want a strip search of the search engine, so to speak. What's going on here?
Well, I think that Google miscalculated Europe because Europe has very strong data protection laws in place, privacy laws. Now, some of them suffered after 9/11, but I think we're seeing a resurgence in the data protection commissioners, including the European data protection authorities, and trying to hammer home the point that personal data is not up for grabs. The reason why Europe is very strong on data protection is the history of what the Gestapo did when they occupied various countries. They went right after the census data. This is how they figured out who they were going to round up and who they were going to look at. And, of course, the Gestapo used to run around in vehicles in occupied Paris, Amsterdam, and other cities looking for, people they would round up, addresses of interest. Google doesn't obviously get this, that this is the history of European data protection law. So that's why the European privacy and data commissioners are coming down hard on Google.
I want to talk now about what is certainly a close relationship between Google and President Obama. This is not to say that there's any evidence of special treatment here, but Google CEO Eric Schmidt sits on Obama's Council of Science and Technology advisors, and the company did give quite a big chunk of change to the Obama campaign. Do you think that this relationship between Google and the president is just a little too close for comfort?
Well, I do, and I think it's very similar to President Obama's close relationship with Goldman Sachs and BP, and we know with those incidents how this administration has been cooking its policies to suit these major corporate donors, and Google is no exception. And I really believe that the European Data Protection Commissioners and the European Union Justice Commissioner that is bringing a complaint against Google should think hard about maybe calling Mr. Schmidt and Sergey Brin over to the European Parliament to sit down and answer questions. Google says it was a mistake. I don't think it was a mistake. I don't think companies make mistakes when they collect that kind of data, but they're always interested in value-adding information to sell to third parties. And what better thing would be to say, look, here's where Mr. So-and-so lives in Paris. And by the way, these are the websites that Mr. So-and-so visits on a regular basis. You can use that for target marketing, but of course you can use it for all kinds of other things, including political surveillance and political oppression.
I do want to point out, though, that there's no evidence here that this was done on purpose. Certainly when you have a bunch of people on their laptops online, which is the case, especially around, a lot of major cities here, you're going to have some open Wi-Fi networks, and it's going to be easy to accidentally, as they say, get that information. So I do want to point out that there's no evidence that this was done on purpose. But I will say this is starting to gain the attention of the U.S. Congress here in Washington. Do you think that this is an issue that lawmakers here might take up in the future?
Well, it depends on how much money Google has pumped into their particular campaigns. And I would note that the new government in Britain, both the conservatives and liberal Democrats ran on a platform of bringing back strong privacy and civil liberties protections. They happen to agree on that issue, maybe not other issues. So I think we may see some more movement in the new British Parliament against Google and companies that do this than we'll see before we'll see it here in the United States Congress. And
just real quick, Wayne, I want to know, just sort of foreshadow for me here, what do you think is going to happen with this case? I mean, Google, obviously a giant corporation. Are they going to get off scot-free, or do you think some changes will actually be made?
Well, they get caught with their pants down when they sign this memorandum of agreement with the National Security Agency. We really don't know what kind of cooperation they're giving there. But I would note that Google and Oracle and a lot of companies received a lot of seed money from the U.S. government, from intelligence agencies. And if Congress looks at anything, they had to look at where some of that money, research and development money out of the intelligence community was going and what it was being used for.
All right, investigative journalist Wayne Madsen joining us from Chicago.